All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having an absolutely fantastic day wherever you are and whatever time it is for you. It is Friday here on the podcast, as always. So we're bringing that Friday energy to you guys. It's a good day because we got Michael Hong with us on the podcast. He does burrs, flips, wholesales, buy and holds, you name it. So Michael can show you guys the way if that's something you guys are into. If you're into the single family strategy, which is most investors actually get started and stay in the single family for good reason because there is a lot of them out there. So Michael, I'm super excited to jump into this. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how you got here?
Yeah, so I was working a full-time job in corporate America. My last job was in telecom, and I was traveling every single week, Monday through Friday. I was in a different city every week, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest. And my wife was in school in a master's program, and she said, as long as I'm in school, you do whatever you want. But whenever I get out, it's time for you to come home and maybe start a family. And
Fair
so,
enough.
yeah. And so I was only for like 8 years. I was only I'm in Houston, Texas, but I was only home here in Houston, in Texas for 8 years, only on weekends and holidays.
Mm.
And so that was a big motivator for me to get started in real estate. And so, man, I tell a lot of people getting started, like, do not tell me you don't have time because
Yeah.
I was doing it while traveling with a high pressure full time job. But our first deal was in house hacking. And so I got to give all the credit to my wife for this, because not all partners would be down for this. But I told my wife when we got married, here's my plan. We're gonna do real estate. I'm gonna start with a house hack, and she was all in on it. So typical house hack people are looking for a 2 to 4 unit property, live in one unit, rent out the others, or a house with a lot of bedrooms and rent out the rooms. So we were running out of time on finding that first house hack, and so we ended up buying a large house in an older, rougher part of town with a
Mm.
lot of rooms, and we rented out by the room. And the original goal was, let's just have half the mortgage covered. We can save more, invest more. But through the miracle of real estate, we were living for free in our first house hack. And for about 4 years, we lived in that house for free. And that kind of,
So you were renting out the rooms and you were living in the house. So you
correct.
were essentially roommates with your tenants.
That is correct.
That
Yeah.
is the ultimate house hack. I love it.
We did that for 4 years,
Wow.
and it just supercharged our strategy. She was working part-time and in school full-time. I was traveling. We were hardly there. Put cameras on the house. Not as scary as it sounds.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm
and
sure you guys were very diligent about who you accepted as tenants. I mean, if you're going to be living with them, you were giving them a second look over when you're making that decision.
Yeah, it all comes back to like marketing and advertising. You get
Mm.
what you ask for, and
Hmm.
so you have to be careful with fair housing laws everywhere you live. But a real estate broker told me if you're living on property, and it's your only unit, fair housing doesn't apply to you. So you're looking for people that kind of live your lifestyle. So I would just put an ad like we're not a put our feet on the table and drink a beer together in the living room kind of environment. We actually staged the rooms for young professionals with like desks and
Oh,
chairs and
nice. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so you kind of get what you ask for. So we got a bunch of young professionals either just getting out of or just getting into a master's program, and they just needed a place to shower, sleep, and do
Perfect.
homework.
Yeah.
So it was wonderful. We did it for 4 years. Looking back, I wish we would have did it longer. And then we started buying single family rentals while we were house hacking and while I'm working and she's going to school and she's also working. And it was a situation where the house I'm standing in right now, we no longer have roommates. We're living here, and this was going to be one of our rentals, and I was underwriting it, and I'm like, babe, are you ready to move and not have roommates anymore? Because we can live in this house, and the cash flow from our other properties was enough to pay for this mortgage of this house. So we transitioned from living for free with roommates to living for free in our own house in the suburbs. And I just want to kind of let everybody know that there's a narrative out there about real estate investors that we're some evil, wicked, Scrooge McDuck on top of a hill. But that wasn't my wife and I's experience because we were living in an older home in an older, rougher part of town. We might have heard fireworks at night that were not exactly fireworks. We were
Been there.
driving, yeah, we were driving 10-year-old cars that were paid off. And then I was driving from the inner city to an older part of Houston out to the suburbs to the west side of Houston where everything was new and nice and pretty. And our tenants, our residents that were living in these homes, they were living in newer, nicer properties than we had. They had like nice new Mercedes and BMW. I had tenants saying, "Well, if I can't park two cars in the garage, I can't rent from you because my cars don't park on the street." And it was like my
I'd be
tenants
like,
like,
well, this is not the house for you, buddy.
yeah. And so our tenants had nicer cars than us, living in a nicer house than us, while we were doing what was necessary to get our real estate career off the ground. And but you look at these people's like credit report and their application and like their credit shot, they have no savings, they're trying to not give you a down payment. And so I encourage everybody who's listening, don't look at like the surface level of people when you're trying to determine who's successful and who's not. I found so many of my tenants are just trying to live like their parents did, is right out of college, or they're in their 30s and 40s. They're not building any wealth. They're in tons of debt. And so we kind of got a lot of flack from our friends and family that they were either in really nice apartments in exclusive parts of Houston, or they were buying a house immediately in the suburbs as soon as they started working. And we were living with roommates in an older home that the home was beautiful on the inside. Um, and we're driving older cars and people were kind of looking down on us, and it doesn't matter because now my mortgage in this home that I'm standing in today is like half of what my neighbors are. So I'm living in the nice community now, the nice suburb community. I have passive income that's paying for my cost of living here. I'm living for free. I no longer have a job. I've been real estate retired for over a year now, kind of going on a year and a half now, and our life looks completely different. We bought this house off market, 50 cents on the dollar. So our mortgage is almost half of what our neighbors are, even with higher rates. And so I would encourage anybody to listen to this, like, do not worry about what your friends and family's life look like. Worry about your goals, because we had a goal setting exercise. We reviewed it every year together, budgeting. I used to do an annual budget, annual review. I learned you got to do that more frequently now. So like once a quarter is really good. And we just had our goals set, and we are now living a life 6 or 7 years into my real estate journey. We are living a life completely unlike anybody all around us, because we didn't get a huge house and we didn't get the very nice cars as soon as we became like, working professionals. And so that's kind of where we got to where we are today, Gabe.
Yeah. No, I love it. You guys have been diligent. You've kept your nose, what's the phrase, nose to the grindstone or something like that, and you've kept making the wise decisions going forward. I love house hacking as a strategy. I feel like that is such a good way to go about it. I did it when I first got started. I bought a duplex, lived in one side, rented out the other, and um, you know, uh, renting out each individual room is like another level of that. So I think that's a really good way to get started. And you're right. I feel like you should never ever really look at what how other people are living. Just live your own life. I'm 38 years old. I'm successful in real estate, and I still drive my the Toyota Camry that my dad gave me so many years ago, 2003 Toyota Camry. You got to have a beater. It's just so nice to drive drive a beater car and just make around town. I've bought a nice car before, but it was I always felt nervous about scratching it, and so you just keep those old cars and do what you got to do. All right, so you made it out. You are real estate retired, as you mentioned. So tell us about your strategy today. You've mentioned burrs, you've mentioned wholesales. What is it that you guys are trying to do? How do you see your career evolving from this point?
So for the last year or so, I've been in a mentorship for multifamily. So
Hmm.
transitioning, I've
You
sold
want to
some
give that
single.
one a shout out?
Yeah, Lifestyles Unlimited.
Okay.
In Houston, Tech. They're nationwide, but I'm here in Houston, Texas. They have an office here. Um, Great company, great mentorship. There's people in there with $1 billion portfolios that you've never heard the names of. They're just quiet professionals. It's a great organization. Um, and so I can teach single family. I'm a student of multifamily. And I'm still looking at single family deals. I have wholesalers sending me deals all over Harris County where I live now. And if anybody has a deal out here in Harris County and you want me to take a look at it, just DM me on Instagram at Michael B. Someone, and I'll take a look at that deal. But also doing direct mail, where we send direct mail to distressed residents that might want to sell their property for cash quickly. And doing a lot of networking, going to a lot of events. I got to tell you, Gabe, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most, we love making money and we love doing deals. I've enjoyed not having a job Monday through Friday. This is like what real wealth and luxury is. You know what wealth and luxury is to me? Going to Costco at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. That is
Gotta
luxury, and
love
that is what.
Costco.
Yeah. Or being able to not drive through traffic, being able to drive whenever you want. And also, I've learned you meet a lot of interesting people when you are not grinding at a job Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. A lot of the multifamily events and a lot of events with sophisticated or accredited individuals happen at like Wednesday at 1 p.m. or like a Friday morning.
Yeah,
And so I have been introduced to a whole new world of people by being liberated from the need of a job.
yeah,
And I've really enjoyed, like, I was at the Houston Club last night with a gentleman named Chris Bounds, who runs something called the Passive Wealth Club here. And we got to go hang out in rooms where George Bush Sr. and Barbara Bush's portraits are on the wall. And it's like there's rooms dedicated to them. And I've been going to like exclusive clubs and venues and just meeting some of the most interesting people in the world.
I thought
Uh, be,
George Bush was from DFW. Is he not? Is he from Houston?
don't know where he's from, but the Houston club here
Oh,
has
it's
a whole
dedicated to
area.
him.
He was a
Got it.
member of a it was of a men's club. Well, it's no longer a men's club. Anybody's welcome, but it's what we would call, 50 years ago, we'd call it a men's club.
Yeah,
And I've just been able to meet the most interesting people, and my friends group has totally changed. And it kind of felt like at first when we were on this journey, we were kind of isolated on an island, and everyone was kind of judgmental of us, and they're worried about working twice as hard at their job to get like a $10,000 raise at the end of the year. In which case, they just leverage with like credit card debt and automobile debt and home debt. So what are they really earning or saving? And we were kind of like an outcast in our friends group, but we've made like a completely different friends group now that are trying to build us up, add value to us, find ways. Like, I just love being around entrepreneurs and other real estate investors. All you do is sit back, have a drink, and talk about what other people can do to you for free, like just helping, connecting with people. And
yeah.
so that's kind of been my hobby right now, is just networking as much as possible, still looking at deals, talking to private lenders,
Okay.
talking to sellers, and
So
looking.
multifamily is that's your future goal. That's what you're looking to get into.
Correct.
So
Still
again, going
still
back to
doing
that
single
real estate
family.
retired thing, it sounds like that's relatively recent for you. Last year you were able to leave your job. For people who are currently in their 9 to 5 and they're looking to get to that, give them a picture of what it took. So what did your portfolio look like? What was your cash flow that allowed you to leave? What was it that allowed you to get from 95 to real estate retired?
I love that. So this number is different from everybody, but while me and my wife were kind of grinding, we were playing this board game called Cash Flow by
Cash
Robert
flow quadrant.
Kiyosaki. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Cash Flow board game, it's available on Amazon. And we kind of realized that when you draw cards, you draw character cards at the beginning of the game. It's like you might be a lawyer with a high salary, you might be a mechanic or janitor with a low salary. And then everyone's like, "Oh, I want the lawyer, I want the engineer, I want the doctor." What you realize is when you draw the low salary cards, it takes less properties for you
Mm,
to reach your real estate
mm.
retirement goal. And so I don't know what real estate retirement means, Gabe, because when I had enough properties to cover my cost of living and my utilities and my gas money and my groceries and everything, I consider myself real estate retired. And I went to like
So what was
networking.
that number for you? I know it's different for everybody. Everybody comes from a
Yeah,
different
it's
position, but for
Yeah,
you,
it's
what
different.
was it?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I really bought properties really deep, and so for me, it just took 3 properties
Oh,
in the
great. Yeah.
suburbs. Yeah, a very small amount of properties.
And those are
Uh,
single family?
yes, those are single family, and for most people, this is not that number is not going to make sense for you.
Hmm.
For most people, it's not. And
Well, I mean, I think for most people, it actually, you could do it with three single family. You couldn't do it with three standard long term stay single families. But if you bought three single families that had multiple rooms, you did the rent by the room, you do short term rentals, you do furnished rentals, any of those strategies, you could definitely replace a salary. I don't know what a standard, what is it, like 4,000, $5,000 a month, with that type of, three properties. So I feel like that is a number that anybody can achieve, and that will allow you to make not a cush life, but a decent living on three properties. So yeah, I think that's a good number to put out there.
yeah, and that also accompanied with us with our primary residence we live in now having a very low mortgage, buying it deep under market value and having a very low mortgage for us.
Yeah.
But what that enabled me to do is stop traveling. I cashed out my 401k and we've sold a couple properties since then. I've passively invested in some multifamily. I haven't been like the GP or like the lead investor on a multifamily yet, but I passively invested some multifamily and we have just gotten really like what is real estate retired. Some people go and sit on the beach. Man, all I want to do is just find my next deal and next adventure. So it went from me like working a job I had to work and then working a real estate deal I felt like I had to work, to now it's like you kick your feet up on the desk and you're like, let's underwrite a deal, let's go walk a property. Like it's like a sport to me. It's the funnest thing in the world.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
It
lot of
told
fun.
the lens that you view the world is completely changed when you're no longer relying on a 9 to 5 job in order
Yeah.
to pay your bills.
Nice. Well, again, congratulations on getting that. That's a big step to achieve, a big goal to achieve. As you said, it's the first of many goals that you're going to be setting for yourself, but it's definitely, in my opinion, the biggest one when you can leave your job with your real estate career. I remember doing that. I don't know how many years ago, but it's a big moment. So it's something that definitely should be celebrated. And I'm excited for your future going forward in multifamily. With that said, we have run down the clock, so it is time to jump in the quick question round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Starts with education, could be any form, could be a book, a conference, a mentorship program, movie, whatever. I just need two recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate.
Man, we everyone's got to start with Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you've heard that 1,000 times.
Mm.
I have a podcast, the Be Someone podcast with Michael Hong. All my guests, they always bring it up. So then I ask them, give me a second one if you mention Rich Dad Poor Dad. So for me, my second one is Who Not How, the book by Dan Sullivan. Great book. Everything I've ever done in my life, I learned I need to ask not how, but who, like who, not how. And then I would recommend everybody who's just getting started. There are free real estate groups all around you that do meetups. Type your city into Facebook, whatever. If you're in St. Louis, Missouri meetup group, or Austin, Texas, or whatever, wherever you're at. Meetup.com has tons of great meetups, and there's a local RIA around you. Bigger Pockets has local meetup groups, and we have tons of them here in Houston. And so you need to be filling your calendar with meetup groups. You need to be listening to podcasts and audiobooks and grab those two books that I mentioned.
Perfect. I love it. All right. Next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Michael, not so many years ago, who was just starting out, just thinking about, he was flying city to city, Monday to Friday, and he was thinking about leaving it, finding something else. And he kind of landed on real estate. Go back to that version of Michael, uh, look him in the eye and give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Michael, you do not need 4 or 5 years of podcasting, audiobooks, and meetup groups before you buy your first deal. You need to get
Hallelujah.
started right now. When I got my first house hack, it's because I didn't think I could have a rental. And when I got my first rental, it went in first as I was going to wholesale the deal, and having the right network around me turned that into actually talk to this private lender. You can probably flip this thing. And I'm like, I can flip a house? And I take it to my private lender and he looks at it. He said, yeah, I'll fund it as a flip. Can you keep this as a rental? Have you talked to a conventional lender? I'm like, no, I thought only like millionaires and billionaires got to keep rentals. I thought if I wholesale enough, one day I could flip. If I flip enough, one day I can own rentals. And then I took it to a conventional lender, and they're like, the lady was like, sweetie, you bring me 10 of these, I can get all 10 of them financed in your name. Then we're going to put 10 of them in your wife's name. And then we can go with a different loan product and give you as many as you want. Keep finding these great deals. And so it's just all about having the right kind of network and the people around you.
There you go. All right. Next question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
I haven't found a better way than direct mail.
Mm.
It's always works. There's been changes in regulation with cold calling, text blasting, PPL, PPC, SEO. Regulations have changed. Direct mail doesn't change. Also, door knocking is never going to change. You're always allowed to do that. And if you don't have the budget or you're afraid to do any of that, just network with some local wholesalers. PPL is hot right now. Everyone I know is doing pay per lead. That's fine. It works. I've used it. It works. But you just can't beat a really good targeted direct mail campaign.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually I've done tons of direct mail in my career, but I've gone away from it recently just because cold calling, I just feel like you can't beat it. All well, I know we're not doing single family, we're doing commercial, and so it might be a little bit different, but for some reason I just love cold calling. Direct mail has just gotten so expensive, and I'm tired of the of the, $10,000 a month in mailers. But if you have success, that's really all that it comes down to. If you're getting deals on your direct mail, then keep it going. It doesn't matter, if you have a return on your money, that's the thing that matters. And so, um, that's good. Leads us to the next question. This is about lessons learned. Not every deal that we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, many times things go wrong, and we get to learn a lesson. So, what was a deal that went a little bit sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Your rehab is always going to take longer and cost more than what you think it is. Never believe what the contractor tells you. Contractor tells you 3 weeks to get this done. You say, "Great, I'm going to give you 4 weeks," and on top of that, every day you're late, I'm going to deduct $100. But every day you're early, I'm going to give you another 100. Then they say, "Well, actually, I think let me get 6 weeks," and then you get the real number out of them. So I've had rehabs take longer, cost more money than originally intended, but it's okay. We still made money on the deal. And we've also had when we go to sell, like when the tenant leaves, we freshen up the house, we go to sell it. We've also had that take longer. So just remember, there's a carrying cost to everything: taxes, insurance, a mortgage payment. But we learn from everything, and we've still made money on all that. I haven't taken my big loss that people say, oh, it's going to happen eventually. I haven't had my big loss yet. So things have been going great for me.
That's awesome, man. Hopefully, it keeps going that way. All right, that leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
So I talked about my Instagram at Michael B. Some on Instagram. On my podcasts on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's the Be Someone with Michael Hong. I also give out my phone number on every podcast because no one's given me a reason not to do this yet. So please don't be the first one. Text me. Do not call me because I get so many spam calls. I won't answer, but it's 832-301-9672. And when you reach out to me, either have a deal under contract or that you want to review, or have a very pointed question that you can't just very quickly Google. And there's also a free Facebook group. If you go click on the link in my description, my Instagram, where we're posting deals and questions and live videos in there as well. Um, so yeah, that's where you can find me.
Perfect. I'll put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, all you got to do is just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find Michael's links. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks, Gabe.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at realestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week, great day, and keep rocking real estate.